Now, Mel Stride has become the fourth Conservative MP to enter the race to become the party's next leader.
Yeah, but what does the former Work and Pensions Secretary really do if he gets the job? Does he have what it takes to lead the opposition? He only won his seat in Parliament by 61 votes. He joins us now. Good to see you once again. Heck, I mean, if you did win, would it make you the leader with the slimmest majority?
Well, look, we've just gone through an election in which we lost two-thirds of our seats, lost 20% in the polling, just polling a little bit more than the Lib Dems did in 2010. So I think we've got to be a bit more aspirational than worrying about holding on to my seat. What we've got to worry about is regaining the ones that we lost, many of which were on paper far safer than mine, in fact, and also eating into those seats that are more marginal. Now, look, we're going to do that by focusing, I think, on two things. One is regaining the trust of the British people that we have lost at the moment, and we've got to do that by uniting, and I think I'm in an extremely good position to do that within the parliamentary party. Was chair of the Treasury Select Committee, leader of the House of Commons. That's all about uniting, in fact, in those cases, right across the House of Commons. And secondly, we've got to regain that reputation for competence, particularly economic competence. Now, we can do that, but it's going to take time, but we've got years ahead of us now to do that, and that is a very important piece of work. I can drive change. I did it at the Department of Work and Pensions, where I brought in fundamental reforms to welfare that save billions of pounds and meant, according to the OBR, 400,000 fewer people going to long-term sickness and disability benefits. I have a background in growing businesses from scratch. I went into Parliament in my later 40s with a lot of that experience, and I believe that I'm well positioned now to do this rebuilding exercise and this unifying exercise that the party so badly needs.
It does so badly need it. I mean, you'd have your work cut out, wouldn't you? How would you try and unite these warring factions within your party? You're losing people to the right, you're losing people to the left.
So in terms of the electorate, I think this left-right labelling is probably quite unhelpful, because I think a number of those people that voted for reform clearly have very legitimate concerns around migration, illegal migration, lower taxation. These are common ground issues. These are concerns actually held right across the political spectrum, and the polling shows that. I mean, Liberal Democrats voters actually care greatly about migration as well. So we shouldn't be labelling this as right versus left in that sense, and we need to deal with that. But we've also got to go deeper into the centre ground. We've got to become that party that has a broad appeal for competency in government, that channels aspiration, opportunity, all of the things that conservatism has traditionally been about, and for which there will always be a strong appetite amongst people if we can get the right platform together. And I believe that I am the leader that can bring us together as a party to fashion a unified programme that can appeal broadly. That will take time and a huge amount of work, but I believe I've shown in my track record that that's just the sort of thing that I can do.
Competency in government. I mean, look, to be perfectly honest, we've had plenty of people like yourself on saying, well, yes, of course, the government failed to deliver and that's why we lost the election. It's hard to see how you show competency in government on the backstop of that. Plus, of course, you were the fall guy throughout this election campaign. You were the poor fellow who kept being pushed on into studios like ours when nobody else would come on to defend the government's record.
So I'm a team player. And when my team's under fire, when my colleagues are on the brink of losing their seats, I go out from the front, I lead, and I lead the charge. And that's what I did. Now, you're right, not everybody did that. Others looked the other way. I stood up and did about 25% of our morning rounds because I care about my party and I cared about doing the very best that we possibly could. As to competency in government, you're right, we've got a number of things wrong. But my record, I think, speaks for itself. At the Department for Work and Pensions, I brought in reforms that the OBR says will mean over 400,000 fewer people going onto those long-term sickness and disability benefits as a result of the reforms I brought in. And in fact, the manifesto that we went to the electorate with all those big tax cuts that we were offering, which was the right thing to do, two-thirds of that was funded by the plans that I put in place to further control the welfare budget. So my record is one of delivery. And the final point I would make really on this is that, you know, I was chair of the Treasury Select Committee for 3 years. I was financial secretary to the Treasury. I was responsible for UK tax, both corporate and personal, up and down the country. We're going to have to win the argument on the economy with Labour. And I want to be opposite Keir Starmer at that dispatch box, forensically holding him to account over things economic, because that is where we can, most importantly, regain the ground that we've lost.
4 men have now put themselves forward for Tory leader. There does seem to be a dividing line now in this leadership campaign about the European Convention on Human Rights. We were talking to Tom Tugendhat yesterday, who was saying he would leave the European Convention on Human Rights. James Cleverly, writing in the Times today, saying that he would not. He said Britain instead could just stand up to Strasbourg. Where do you stand on this?
So I think on that issue and some others that are of fundamental, crucial importance, it will be a general mistake for candidates in this race, perhaps in order to pitch to the party membership at this point, on those kind of issues in a way that paints you in and boxes you in on decisions. Because ultimately, whoever wins this race is going to need to go back to that parliamentary party and have set out a position that can unite the party. And I think on things like ECHR, of course, we're not going to allow that to get in the way of us doing the things that we will need to do to have an effective deterrent to stop illegal migration. But at the same time, the parliamentary party in particular, and more broadly the party, but the parliamentary party in particular, has to come together around our position of that. So I think it would be foolish on a number of issues, and this one included, to not allow that to be the process by which those decisions are taken.
OK, Mel Stride, really good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.